Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDRs, but hey, it's something. Video writing is pretty good thus far. I got some videos written, and I got some more written down. And I think I'll be in a good position by the time this month is over to have at least begin the flow. I think I gotta start writing some videos that'll be happening, because there's some videos at the end of the year that are gonna be a little longer. So gotta start writing some of those. But yeah, with that out of the way, let's get right into the news. And one of the big news, this is just going to be a theme for the entirety of this news segment, and it's that you can't trust a single thing that reactionaries, or particularly this particular government, is saying. You can't trust a single thing that they're saying. Literally, every single tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist is now going to become a lot more validity, at least on the left side of the aisle, because literally every single thing that they say is just a flat lie. And here's the first one, and it's regarding the recent situation regarding Venezuela. Because if you remember, Donald Trump invaded Venezuela and is trying to illegally claim Venezuela as their own territory, and some, I guess, quote-unquote, slight good things might have happened in this situation, such as Enrique Marquez being freed after, being arrested. But the big thing, it's just, objectively, every single thing of this situation is just fucking terrible. And one of the big things that really just blew my mind, not necessarily because they proved something or whatever, but literally, this is the thing. Justice Department drops claim that Venezuela's Cartel de los Soles is an actual group. Now, there are a lot of you who probably don't know what this particular situation is, but Cartel de los Soles was allegedly the Venezuelan cartel. Basically, the allegation is that was the, literally just for lack of a better term, it was considered the narco-terrorist wing of the Venezuelan government. Now, there are a lot of things about it that don't make no sense. For starters, go to the Wikipedia page and you'll see that the years active of this quote-unquote cartel was 1993 to present, which doesn't make any sense if you're trying to connect it to the Chavez or Maduro regime, because that would mean that this institution began prior to them. So it would make no sense for that just to the whole point is but it's not real. It's just not real. They just admitted point blank, oh yeah, it's not real. And in that article that I will probably link, because that one is hidden behind a paywall, but they just go on to flat out state oh, it was just a term. It's just a term to generally describe drug trafficking in the country. It is not an actual group. It's just a flat-out lie. Now, Marco Rubio is continuing to claim that Cartel de los Soles is real. He's still trying to claim that they are a drug cartel, but in the actual criminal case against Maduro, they will no longer be using that as an example, because it's not real. It's not real. Such as in the same case with Tren de Aragua. It's not a real thing. Basically, Tren de Aragua is literally it was literally a one gang in one prison, and then somehow it exploded to somehow be it's basically just propaganda. And it's just insane that is being used as sort of a propaganda tool. It's just insane. They just flat out made up an entire cartel, and at this point, how can we trust them to say the truth about any other cartel? And again, they didn't it's not this is a hidden thing. They just admitted it. And they're slated to go to trial about claiming Nicolas Maduro is this big, massive drug trafficker. And yet the alleged actual cartel that was supposedly do the drug trafficking is just not existent. It is so fucking insane that we just live in this society where this can just happen. And again, this comes after the fact that Donald Trump literally pardoned a guy who was an actual literal narco-terrorist, like Juan Orlando Hernandez. This is the thing. It's the whole, it's just propaganda and lies. And it's a similar cycle with all other reactionary movements. Right-wing movements create the problems, and then when those problems become big, then it's suddenly the left-wingers' fault when they get elected to fix those problems. Gustavo Petro was elected to stop drug trafficking, and now they're claiming Gustavo Petro is a drug trafficker. AMLO and Claudia Sheinbaum were elected to stop the drug trafficking, after like, all of the drug trafficking that happened during the administrations of Fox, Calderon, and Peña Nieto, and all of a sudden they're being labeled as the narco-terrorists. Rafael Correa is the one who literally did everything in his power to stop the drug cartels in Ecuador, to leading to the point where Ecuador became the safest nation in Latin America, and yet somehow he's the one getting charged for drug trafficking. Ignore the fact that literally all of the right-wing parties are the ones that actually have connections to drug trafficking. And I guess we'll just move on to the next part, because this next part is also infuriating. It's Mexico. Like, Donald Trump is officially announcing that he plans on doing land strikes on drug cartels that quote-unquote run Mexico. And again, everybody just keeps saying it's a lie that everybody, even people like Hassan Piker, say, where it's like, they say that the drug cartels quote-unquote run Mexico. And one of the it's weird. It's, again, weird. Even though it is it's a thing that Vicente Fox is now trying to say as well. Vicente Fox, Xochitl Galvez, all those people, they're just like, oh, the drug cartels, and you're in the pocket of the drug cartels. It's like, bro, your parties are the ones who aided and abetted the drug trade in your nations. Felipe Calderon is the one who started the drug war, and the drug war led to a massive boom in drug trafficking. Fox and /or Calderon, your Secretary of State was the one who literally was connected to the Sinaloa cartel. And one of the big things that is used that, again, I know that I'm just going to inevitably, I know at this point, I'm going to like just not even remotely engage with this talking point anymore, but to do a little bit of debunking of conservative talking points, one of the big things that has been pointed out about like the Mexican elections and trying to claim that Claudia Sheinbaum and /or AMLO are in the hands of the drug cartels is literally the claim, they one of the big things that has been pointed out was that the most recent Mexican elections were literally the deadliest in Latin America, the deadliest elections in Mexico's history, with 37 candidates dying. And then there was another more recent election death that happened in Mexico where it was like a candidacy, not the most recent one, but like one prior to that. But like the thing that is just so infuriating is like, because they say like, oh, Claudia Sheinbaum, like they keep insinuating like Claudia Sheinbaum has something to do with it, and then it's just like Claudia because one of the big things they keep saying is like, oh, well, see, this is like proof. These were the candidates who were trying to stop the drug cartels, and they got assassinated. And it's like, if that's the case, then you are saying that the government of Mexico is the ones that are trying to stop the drug cartels. Because the candidates that got killed, overwhelmingly, 19, in that election cycle, 19 of the 37 candidates that were killed were members of Sheinbaum's coalition. Morena, PT, PVEM. And the other 18 were of opposition parties, whether it be the PRIAN, PRD, movements like Citizens Movement. I think there were a couple of independents thrown in there, but you get my point. A majority were of Sheinbaum's party, of Sheinbaum's bloc, of the left-wing bloc. And there was another one that was just super infuriating. A woman who was running for office in Mexico died, and everyone was, again, blaming Sheinbaum, blaming the left, blaming them. And it's like, guys, I know you guys might be stupid, so let me explain this to you. Notice how she's wearing a brown jacket, like a reddish-brown jacket, a morena-colored jacket, if you will. You see, notice how that's the exact same color of jacket that Sheinbaum wears? You see, that's because they're members of the same party. The party motif is to wear that jacket color. That's literally the motif of the party. It's basically like a morena uniform, where you go to campaign rallies, you wear a white shirt, and you wear that, vest jacket. Literally, it's just insane that, again, we just live in a world where people are just so stupid they do not understand this concept. Or they do and they just ignore it. But it's just infuriating. And, it's finally time for you to dust off the hashtag #HandsOffMexico. Because it's time. They've been building it up for a long time. They've been building it up since AMLO. But it's finally time. They're trying to do it. They're trying to do regime change in Mexico. They're not going after drug cartels. They're lying to you. They literally were just caught lying about the Venezuelan cartels being real, and now they're saying they're not real. So are they lying now, or are they lying then? They were lied about WMDs. And for those of you who are like, no, that wasn't Trump. No, it was. It was Trump. Trump supported the Iraq War. And also, he is lining his pocket with neocons. He's lied about ending 8 wars. He's an objective liar. He's lied about not fucking kids. He's 100% fucked kids. So he's just a flat out liar. Everything about it is just a lie. And now people are paying him extra attention because they're bringing up the Greenland thing again, because Trump is now going on to threaten Greenland again and saying a lot of very, 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 very fucked up things in regards to Greenland. The biggest insinuation being that he is going to take over Greenland. And that would be a massive problem, because that would basically push NATO into a war with the United States. The peace president. And of course, worst Democrat in existence, John Fetterman, has stepped into the fold to give his takes on the matter, saying, quote, "Ideally, we purchase it." No, Fetterman. Ideally, you all would shut up, get back to work, and actually start doing anything to help the American people. There's another thing that would have been ideal to happen, but I can't say that. It would have been better to remember Fetterman for the politician he used to be rather than the politician that he became. And again, I'm just so confused. What happened? Was it literally just the stroke? Because that literally just seems like what happened. He wasn't he slightly shifted a little bit but that was just normal Democrat shift to the middle rhetoric. Not oh, I'm going to become Donald Trump's favorite Democrat. It's just, was it literally just the stroke? I just don't get it. Or was it literally just the AIPAC funding? Or was it just a factor? But I don't get it. This just doesn't make any sense. He's doing literally all the same things for, and it's not working. He's not, is he, I don't remember if he's, actually gaining ground with Republicans or not. But anyways, let's move on to the next story, and it's a depressing story. Apparently, the CDC is now revoking a lot of vaccines. Now, instead of recommending to all parents that children get 17 vaccinations, they're now recommending they only get 11. And they're removing the vaccinations for hepatitis A, hepatitis B, rotavirus, influenza, meningococcal disease, and RSV. The first one that a lot of people, each of these diseases being not vaccinated is a very, very stupid idea. Rotavirus is a disease that affects basically every child in existence, and it's only the vaccination that makes the symptoms lesser. Hepatitis A and B, of course, are liver diseases, so that's a very bad idea to not vaccinate for them for easily preventable diseases. Meningococcal, I don't even know how to pronounce. It's basically a version of meningitis. Or meningitis is a symptom related to the disease. It's an infectious disease, and it has a 10 to 20% mortality rate without biotics, without any sort of vaccination, and a 10% mortality rate once you do any form of treatment. Those are the mortality rates if you do not vaccinate your child and they get the disease. Literally 10 to 20% without doing anything. 10% even if they do something. The flu, I don't think I really need to explain the flu, but RSV was the one that I very much definitely got my attention because I just didn't know what RSV was. Which is one of the beautiful things about a world with vaccinations. We live in a world where we don't have to worry about a lot of these very bad infectious disease. And the reason why it caught my attention when I started looking into it is it's a very common infectious disease to get, and it's a very bad one to get. So, literally just every single one of these diseases, it doesn't make sense to remove the vaccination. Well, it doesn't make sense to remove any vaccination. And I should say, you are still, I think, allowed to get these vaccines. It's not like they're saying they're banning these vaccines from being made or used. But now, doctors won't recommend it. So they won't tell their patients, or at least they'll be incentivized to not tell their patients, hey, you should get this vaccine, this vaccine, this vaccine, this vaccine. Because, when you're at the doctor's office and you have a kid, you basically are told, hey, these are some of the vaccines that I think you really should get. These are pretty bad ones. And that's the thing in regards to, all these. It's a thing. It's like a meme. I've said this. I think I've said this before, specifically about. I don't know if I said it about vaccinations. I think I said it about vaccines. I've said it about vaccinations, and I think or social programs, bad times create strong men create good times create weak men create bad times. Like, it's like a meme that a lot of like right wingers and reactionaries like to do, but they usually try to do it about like, I don't really know, like, oh, we lived in a world where the Crusades didn't happen or whatever. But this can be said about a lot of things. We live in a world where vaccines are common and people take them, and as such, we have all of these benefits that come with it. We've never had to worry about a measles outbreak because a lot of people get vaccinated for the measles. I've never even heard of RSV, and yet I was more than likely vaccinated for RSV when I was a kid. Like, that's why I didn't have to know about it, because I was vaccinated for it and I was safe. You get to worry less once you have vaccinations for diseases. But due to that fact, people have now grown accustomed to this world, and due to this world, they now go, since we live in this world, why do we have to still do this thing from the previous world? We don't have to worry about these kind of diseases anymore, so we should stop vaccinating for them. And of course, that leads to the problems, because now we're at a point where the flu is getting a bit of an outbreak in, a lot of areas around the country at this moment. Measles is starting to get pretty noticeable in areas of this country because people aren't vaccinating for the measles anymore. And all these people are doing the same thing. I gotta be real, it's also probably a death cult thing, because I saw a video from FD Signifier not that long ago. I'll probably link it somewhere. I don't know if I'll put it in a card or in the description, but you can look it up, like Charlie Kirk and the conservative death cult. But it's a video where basically just explains like conservatives are literally just in a death cult. At this point, they just are. The next couple of stories will also show that, but his was about like Charlie Kirk for the most part, but he also touched a little bit about like the vaccine issue, where there was like this guy who was a vaccine skeptic. He didn't like vaccines, and he was literally dying on a respirator, and he didn't regret not taking a vaccine, even though literally taking the vaccine would have saved his life. It's a similar reason why a lot of like reactionary libertarians or whatever claim that, I don't think it's one of the main reasons. It is one of the main reasons. I don't know if it's the primary reason. It could just be racism. But a lot of them, say like, oh, well, we don't need to live in a world with like the Civil Rights Act. We don't need to live in a world with like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, because they've never lived in a world without it. Like, these laws were put into place which have led the world to be where we are today. And now, if you want to advocate for removing these laws, we're going to be put in a situation that is worse because those laws are gone. I don't really know if I'm going to be able to say much that really continues with the main point of that story, so I'll just move on to the next one. Next two, technically, they're two news stories, but I'm going to put them into one because, they're basically the same thing. ICE is murdering people. They have been murdering people for a long time, but now they're murdering white people, so now people are caring. Well, the latter two I don't think are white, but like, they murdered a white woman, so now people care. For context, some fucking like stupid YouTubers started like harassing Somali people again. He was also he also was apparently like sucked off Trump's cock about the, Salvadorian like death camps. But basically he did that, and then ICE was sent to Minnesota, and then ICE doing what they do best, harassing people who've done absolutely nothing wrong because they're fucking useless cunts who have nothing to do with their lives. And then at one point, a woman, like, her car was in the way of ICE at one point. And then he shot her. Now, the video footage very explicitly shows the ICE agent in the wrong. He was not in the way of the car. She was turning, waving him off to like when you're in a car and then you're like, I don't know, I guess the lights are off, like the lights are off. You're telling someone, you go ahead, I'll then go. And then she, like, after one car left, she was waiting for someone else to turn, and then they weren't, so it's like, okay, I guess I'll go. And then he shot her. And then conservatives and reactionaries immediately jumped on the, she deserved it. Meanwhile, they're the same people who say that it was the Venezuelan government that was harassing all of their political opposition and killing their political opposition, and Iran, if Iran does anything bad, then we need to start doing something to Iran. They say that, and then they also, just openly, again, I guess I just gotta say it. I just gotta say it. Stop. Like, I mean, I've said this before. I'll say it again. Stop trying to convince conservatives like do that. Like, you know, convince, like show hypocrisy. There's no point. There's no point. You're not gonna convince any conservatives. Conservatives at this point do not care about the hypocrisy. They don't care. They do not care. They do not care. If they did, they wouldn't be where they are today. Same thing with Trump supporters in general. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I guess I'll just bring it up with the next story. The next story, which is again relative to the story, but we're gonna mostly focus on this one. But I'm gonna mention this other one because like they also sent ICE agents to Portland, Oregon, and 2 people were shot and wounded by ICE agents. And then immediately ICE and the Department of Homeland Security started to make the claim that they were actually like trained Aruga people, like, you know, they were part of a Venezuelan gang. And it's like, but literally earlier this week, you literally disproved the Venezuelan gang argument by saying that the quote-unquote biggest drug cartel in Venezuela doesn't exist. And Tren de Aruga does not exist. I know that it doesn't exist. It's not real. And then immediately afterwards, people point out the fact that the 2 people who got shot in Portland, they literally called the police after being shot by ICE agents. You know, if you're a member of a criminal gang, you're not going to call the fucking cops. So, shock of all shocks, ICE lied again. And again, ICE has lied multiple times. They've lied so many times during this administration that literally, if you believe if you believe ICE agents at any point, you are brain dead, you are useless, get out of my life, I never want to interact with you, go away. You are showing you are a sheep, you get your Gadsden flags off of everything that you say and everything you do, because you don't believe in that. You are in favor of the government treading on you. But back to what happened in Minneapolis, Renee Nicole Good, you know, again, and they preface it with every single part of the story, U.S. citizen, because that's one of the big things. They didn't care. They didn't care prior. Nobody cared prior. Because, again, ICE agents have murdered people multiple times during this Trump term. They have. That is a fact. Multiple people have died in ICE custody under very mysterious circumstances. One of them was literally found with his hands and legs tied up with ICE saying it was a suicide. And this came after ICE agents had repeatedly say, oh no, these people who are like literally 100% citizens, they told us that they were illegal aliens that were like trying to like drug traffic. And it's like, why would they tell you that? That is the dumbest thing ever. You can't even lie good. And in this situation, they've also tried to do things about like, oh, they can't lie good. Because one of the big things that they're just trying to like every single conservative, bottom and top, have tried to show that she was doing it. And one of the things that happened that really showed just how far gone the conservative movement in the United States is there was literal footage from the point of view of the filthy, disgusting pig Jonathan Ross who did this. POV footage of him from his phone or like a phone of like one of the other ICE agents, and they were recording this incident. It wasn't a body cam because ICE agents don't have body cams. Coincidence. They can't be identified. They don't have body cams. There's literally no way to hold them accountable. Interesting. But footage from their point of view was released by the ICE agents themselves, mind you. And the footage objectively shows the ICE agents are in the wrong. The footage literally shows the ICE agents, the piece of shit, worthless cunt, Jonathan Ross, that shows him walking around her car with Renee Good literally saying, I do not blame you for doing your job. Like, I genuinely don't even know if she was even affiliated with any group activity in this moment. She literally just acts like she was just like getting out of her driveway or something. Like, he records her car, he goes through all around the perimeter of the car. There's like a protest that literally says, oh, by the way, yeah, they're driving, their license plate is gonna be the same when you come back to see us, don't worry. And then he goes all around the car, like he goes from her driver's window, around the back, over to the front, and then steps to the front of the car, where allegedly everybody was claiming like, oh, she tried to ram him. He is literally right smack dab in the middle of the car, of the front of the car. If she was trying to ram him, like what they're saying, she would have done so at that particular moment. But it was only after he was out of the way of her car, we see her turn the wheel to indicate that she's going to drive away from where he's standing. Like, he's, again, going right back to where the driver's window is. And she's turning the car to go right. He's on the left, she's on the right. And that is when he starts opening fire on her. Literally, as she was getting out of the way of him, trying to not obstruct him from doing his job that she says she doesn't blame him for. And that worthless cunt, Jonathan Ross, just started unloading on her. And then after the car crashes, and they refuse to let her get medical attention, because there's footage that shows doctors were there saying, let me help her, and they said no. After that happens, Jonathan Ross, that piece of worthless human garbage that he is, calls her a fucking bitch. And again, they themselves released the footage because they thought it was going to be used to prove he was in the right. And a lot of people on the conservative right said, yes, it did. Even after the footage just blatantly shows that she was completely in the right and he was completely in the wrong, they still said it was her fault. Because they don't care. They genuinely don't care. If you don't fall in line, again, this is what is fucked up. She did everything right. She cooperated. She told him, I don't blame you for your job. She did nothing that would even remotely be worth getting shot. And that piece of shit, Jonathan Ross, fucking killed her. And half the country says he was right in doing so. And yet conservatives are going to sit there and pretend that it's like, why doesn't the left like us anymore? You did this to yourselves. The fact that you are willing to just openly say that this was justified, and they just lie again. They say, like, we saw how you reacted with Charlie Kirk. You don't understand. You really don't get it. Oh, Charlie Kirk was murdered by some random fucking loser. It's the same thing. They do the same thing. It's like, this random fucking person was murdered by an illegal alien. Oh no! Why weren't you guys crying about this? It's like, cause the illegal alien, random person kills random person. Oh, wow, that's vastly different than the fucking government murdering people. And then people point out, they're like, we didn't riot when Charlie Kirk got killed. It's like, yeah, because you guys don't care about him. You guys don't care. you guys are admitting you guys don't care about any of the people you talk about. We didn't riot when Irina Soroka got killed. Yeah, because you guys don't care about her. Which is why you keep using the footage of her fucking dying against her parents' wishes. Because she's not a person to you. She's a prop. Same reason you care about, like, what's her name, Laken Riley? She's not a person to you. She's a prop. These are not people to you. These are props for you to use to get an epic pwn on the libs. You don't care about any of the people you claim to care about. You don't care about your constituents. Your constituents are fucking starving while you are sitting there being like, which country should we invade next? And I'm done. I'm done. Conservatives, you guys, you are human beings. You are smart in this. We live in a world where you can be as informed as the most intelligent person on the planet. And yet you choose to remain ignorant. Because it doesn't matter. Their ideology hedges on them being ignorant. It hedges on them being weak. It hedges on them doing this. Because that's what they want. They want to be like this. That is what they want. They want to be treaded on. Like, bro, I'm sorry. It's becoming increasingly hard to be not pro I just guess it. I guess I just gotta say it. Like, bro, I understand the under no pretext line now. I get it now. I get it now, man. I get it. And like, bro, it's like, why? I used to be a guy that used to just be like, man, I want people to like not go into medical debt. That's what I remember. Remember when I used to be that? Remember when we all used to be that? I really want to make a tweet. I want to make a tweet or like a video, like a tweet or like just a meme video where it's literally just like, because it's just like, bro, again, I remember when I used to be a guy whose politics were, man, I think people shouldn't have to waste thousands of dollars to get cancer treatment. And also, I think it's not a good idea to like go to all these wars that aren't going to do any good for us. And I also don't think we should arrest people for smoking a harmless plant. Remember that? Remember when I used to be like that? Good times, man. Good times. Now I'm sitting here saying like, man, under no pretext makes sense. And I guess I'll move on. I'll move on to the last story because this one is not necessarily related, but kind of related, but also not related. I was going to end it on a feel-good story about Mamdani, but no, I can't. I have to end it on this news story. I just have to make it all downers for the news because, yeah, news is a downer news. But this one is a big one. It's one that was said was going to happen at some point, but now it's like, he's threatening it again. Donald Trump is threatening to denaturalize U.S. citizens if they, quote, deserve it. Experts raise grave concerns about future. President Donald Trump is seemingly trying to redefine what counts as an American citizen. Since returning to the White House, he's not only ramped up his immigration crackdown, but has also questioned the citizenship status of foreign-born U.S. citizens, sparking mass concerns over the process of weaponization of denaturalization. Trump has paid particular focus to Minnesota on account of widespread investigations regarding fraudulent schemes targeting government-funded programs within the state. The president has used the scandal to target Minnesota's Somali community and has accused them of destroying the state on account of some people of Somali descent being found guilty of involvement with schemes. He is seemingly taken to blaming the community as a whole rather than the individuals involved. Referencing members of the Somali community, Trump confirmed this week that his administration is looking into stripping some Americans of their naturalized state. I would do so in a heartbeat if they were dishonest. And this is a point that I was going to get into in like the previous story, but I guess I'll get into it here. It's because truly, like, it's the reason why people didn't really care about like the ICE people being murdered by ICE until it was Renee Good, because she's a quote unquote, she's a U.S. citizen. She was a citizen, so that's one of the big things. Like, oh, detaining U.S. citizens, that was one of the main talking points. Like, detaining citizens, that was the main thing, and people were like, oh, that's the concern. It's like, see, you're doing the thing. You were saying that there are some people where it is okay to do this to, and some people who are not doing this okay to. And it's the same thing with this. And it's like, you guys don't understand. They don't care. The people on top, there is no people we are going to target and people we are not going to target. They're not going to stop at illegal immigrants. They're not going to stop at immigrants. They're not going to stop at foreign-born U.S. citizens. They're not going to stop at anybody. Like, everyone is a target. Everyone. Like, literally, he's saying denaturalizing. Sure, he's adding the caveat of like, oh, well, I'm only going to do it to foreign-born citizens. But he also, during the campaign, said that he would possibly do it to people who have immigrant parents. And he probably said like, I meant people who have like two immigrant parents who weren't born in the United States, and it's like, but like, what does that mean for the people who were born in the United? Like, you guys aren't understanding. Where does it end? It doesn't end. You guys aren't understanding. It's not going to end. He'll always find an excuse. Like, that's literally what happened during the Holocaust. That's the first thing that happened. The Jewish people who were citizens of the German Reich, he denaturalized them so that he could do whatever he wanted to them. They weren't citizens, so they didn't qualify for they didn't qualify for any of the things that are they didn't count. You're not allowed to genocide your citizens. Simply not make them citizens. Like, guys, it's not going to stop. You guys don't understand. Like, I mean, I really don't think anybody understands the seriousness. It's not going to stop. If he will figure out a way. Like, he'll always figure out a way to conveniently make it so that he counts. Like, it's just racism. He counts because he's a white American. People who aren't, they're not going to qualify. Like, black people, black conservatives, he's going after you next. He'll be like, hey, didn't you guys come here on boats? Methinks that means you guys can't be citizens. to anyone who thinks, oh, but like, no, the laws, yeah, and the laws that he continually breaks and doesn't do, and no one does anything about it. He said that, like, about, like, hey, Trump, what about your, like, corruption foreign business dealings? I saw that tweet where and then he says, like, I mean, nobody seemed to care, and I just did it, and I'll keep doing it. And it's like, yeah, he's right. Who's going to do anything about it? No one's doing anything about it. Biden, it's your fault. You had 4 years to do anything about it. You guys didn't do anything about it. And I know that this is going to be very odd, especially considering the subject of this video, but I have to ask the question. Like, talking about literal denaturalization, openly just flat out murdering people and trying to get away with it, and all of the actions that have been done in the Trump administration thus far that are just wildly unpopular. Nobody likes, like, literally every single thing that Donald Trump has done in his term has been wildly unpopular. Nobody likes it except for his hardcore base. Literally, and every single conservative pundit and a conservative, like, person, every single conservative politician and every single conservative pundit, all of them are just lockstep in agreement with him. They're all just openly saying, we will follow this road. Does this sound like the actions of a man who is prepared for another presidential bid or another, like, does this sound like the bid of a party that will literally just, like, give up power at some point? No, that's not how it works. Like, Mussolini, when he first got elected, he didn't immediately start with all this shit. He waited a little bit until he could do this stuff, building the infrastructure to be able to do all the bad things that he did. That way he could actually build up to not have the elections anymore. Hitler didn't do it immediately. He like built the infrastructure to slowly erode democracy to make it so that guys, really? You guys gotta be prepared for the situation that may come. Like, guys, borderline, the only reason I voted for the Democrats in 2024 was because I was 100% convinced that if Trump takes office, he's never leaving. He's never leaving. He keeps making haha jokes about running in 2028, and he keeps doing things that just, like, no person who is actually trying to win a future election is going to do. This just doesn't make any sense. Unless you look, like, I mean, it's the same thing. Like, this doesn't make any sense if you're looking at it through that lens. But look at it through the lens of he will not leave, and suddenly it makes a lot more sense. People have literally even started noticing, like, apparently, like, some Trump, like, statement releases literally say, like, blah blah blah, Trump hopes to get this stuff done in his first term or whatever. Like, he says this stuff and it's like, what do you mean? What do you mean this term? Like, what do you mean? But anyways, let's move on to the main topic of this video. And for the main topic, let's just pretend that we live in a normal world. Let's just pretend that Trump will concede in the next election, that Trump won't run for a third term. He's not going to rig the 2026 election. Let's just pretend this is like a normal world, and let's just pretend and everything is okay. Let's pretend that there's not going to be an American Night of Long Knives. Let's just pretend that's not going to happen, and just do some speculation on what could happen under a hypothetical, like, election that could happen in 2026. Maybe it might. I would assume so. We're going to be dividing it up into categories and only going over the races that I think are important. So let's start with the Secretary of State's elections. 26 Secretaries of States are up for grabs in 2026. Now, you may notice that I have not previously covered the Secretary of State's elections in, previous versions of these videos. But in an era where literally the only thing keeping elections from running smoothly is having a particular Secretary of State, maybe it's a good reason to actually pay attention to the Secretary of State's races. As of now, there really isn't much to report. These races are kind of being seen as an afterthought. They're only starting to be paying attention to a little bit. And, let's just briefly go over the races in the swing seats and see how fucked we truly are. One is Wisconsin. There really isn't much to report yet. No Republicans have filed. 2 Dems versus a Green are in the race right now. Hopefully it stays this way, because that would not be a bad situation. Arizona. The Democrat Adrian Fontes is currently running for a second term, and based on the last results, he probably has a very good chance of winning. And so far, the only Republican running is Alexander Kolodin, who is a 2020 election denier. Election deniers don't seem to be doing well in Arizona, so maybe that's a good thing. Nevada, the independent Democrat Cisco Aguilar has not announced another term yet, so I'm sitting here wondering, what's the holdup? The only Republican running in this race was trying to actively rig the 2020 election, and you only got 48% last time, so take that small incumbency advantage while you can, because time to step in. In Michigan, the incumbent Democrat is term limited, and they got 55% of the vote, so they probably have a better chance than most, but no incumbent does mean that there is some slight concerns, so it's slightly a little more open. The Democratic primary is pretty packed, and the GOP primary is packed as well. And the guy who's the most likely to win the GOP primary is the Macomb County Clerk, Anthony Forlini, a guy who hired election deniers, so clearly that is their indication. But of course, the biggest one who is up for grabs is Georgia, which to an extent is a bit of a reverse of Wisconsin. So far, no prominent Democrat has entered the race yet. And the attention is really on the Republican field, specifically because, as we all know, this is the state where Trump literally said, "Find me 11,780 votes. And, the only reason why he didn't find those votes was because Brad Raffensperger said, "Shove it up your ass." But unfortunately, Brad's going somewhere else. So the field is wide open. And since the GOP is predicted to be the winners, it's likely that their guy is going to win. So let us look at the candidates that are currently running. There's Gabriel Sterling, a guy who worked for Brad Raffensperger, who called Trump's claims about 2020 fraud all easily provably false and testified in Congress to push against this. Kelvin King, a black Republican who has stated that both Stacey Abrams and Donald Trump had their elections stolen. Vernon Jones, a former Democrat who sold himself to Trump during the 2020 election, who spoke at the January 6th insurrection, and, as is typical for black conservatives, went full on the deep end. It's a common thing that you notice about black conservatives. I think FD Signifier said it, but it was like black conservatives can never be normal. Like, they're never, I am just a black conservative who believes that, lower taxes and gun rights are good. They're always the people that say something like, racism never existed. That's an actual thing that a black conservative has said. Racism never existed. Granted, it was just Ely Peterson, but, I'm just saying. And the last candidate is Tim Fleming, a guy whose site says, quote, he champions voter ID and election transparency, deport any illegals attempting to vote in Georgia, and make it impossible for the left to cheat in elections. So, yeah. There's not much I can really say about the Secretary of State's races, but, yeah. Next, we have governor's races. 39 governor's elections are up for grabs in 2026. 17 are not interesting at all. Deep red or deep blue with basically nothing interesting going on. I think some of them are term limited, but otherwise, nobody cares. I don't really care. You really want me to go over the Wyoming governor election? Nah, nobody cares. You guys don't care. So let's look over the interesting ones. I.e., the swing seats, and also ones that are having some slightly interesting things that could happen, Okay, first, we'll start off with Florida. Florida, it's not that interesting to an extent, but I'm only mentioning it just because because this is the thing. We're getting our first Groyper candidate. Like, he's tried to claim, what's a Groyper? I don't know. Like, he's doing the thing that Trump does, what is this? I don't know what this is. Like what he did with David Duke. Like, who's David Duke? What's the Proud Boys? But it's like, he knows. He's expressed support for Nick Fuentes multiple times and says things that are aligned with Groypers. take a good long look, guys, that's going to be the future of the GOP. Literally, because he's currently, I don't know if he's polling high. I don't think he's polling high at this particular moment, but he's getting pretty prominent online. Yeah, he's getting prominent. Especially to shit on the Trump-backed candidate Byron Donalds. Next candidate, Vermont. On paper, it's flippable, but Phil Scott probably has it locked, so, Alaska. Some people say that Alaska is flippable, but that was when they were putting Peltola as a potential candidate. At this point, it's probably solid red, or it could be flippable. It could be because, ranked choice voting is now a thing, and other factors could make the seat potentially flippable, but otherwise, I don't know if it will be. Kansas. Somehow, Kansas has a Democrat governor, so it's possible for it to go blue, but realistically, it's going to flip. Iowa actually seems possibly flippable because one poll in the race has Randy Freensta and Rob Sand has one poll with Sand winning. So it's possible, but not probable. The one with the most packed primary, to an extent, is California. And because literally every single Democrat politician in California seems to see it as a stepping stone to do anything. Because remember, Gavin Newsom is currently polling the highest. I don't know if he's currently polling the highest, but he's one of the top contenders for the Democratic nomination in 2028, presuming we have elections at that point. Oh, wait, but no. We're pretending that's a possibility. We're pretending that's a possibility. This is happy times. And literally just a bunch of Democrats just started filing for the seat. Katie Porter, Eric Swalwell, I think the lieutenant governor ran briefly and then dropped out. Tom Steyer, Zoltan Istvan decided to flip and become fucking Democrat in this race. They're all running because they all want to be the guy. They all want to be him so bad. And this situation is so bad that a lot of people are actually concerned that the Democrats will actually lock themselves out of this race because they can't unite behind one person. Now, if you remember really early on, a lot of people really wanted Katie Porter to be the one that they would unite against. That everyone thought that Katie Porter was going to be the one that they all united against. But then, united for, but then came that controversy because she's a fucking shitty human being, which compelled a lot of people like Eric Swalwell to jump into the race. Bro, I just pulled up the wiki page about the race and literally just listen to this. Okay. These are the candidates that were in the race who were prominent but withdrew. Tony Atkins, Stephen Klubach, Elena Kalankis, I don't know how to pronounce that, but you know who it is, Lieutenant Governor. Fiona Ma. Here are the candidates that are prominent that are running, i.e. they have a Wikipedia page. Xavier Becerra, Ian Calderon, Zoltan Istvan, Katie Porter, Tom Steyer, Eric Swalwell, Tony Thurmond, Antonio Villagrossia, and Betty Yee. And apparently, there are 4 people who might still run. Rob Bonta, apparently, he initially declined running, and a decision is expected by mid this month. Rick Caruso, Matt Mahan, and Buffy Wicks. That's not even getting into the fact that 4 more people, I think it was Schiff, Harris, and I closed the page. I'm not gonna look it up again. But you're at point. Everyone wanted to be him. Everybody wanted to be the new Gavin. And I find it very odd that of all the candidates, the best ones running are a billionaire and an AI tech bro. Literally, I was literally contemplating endorsing Zoltan Istvan as a fucking meme because it's just funny. But Tom Steyer is obviously a better choice because apparently he even just went so far as to admit his own faults. If you remember, he ran that brief 2020 bid for president, and he was just I think he tried to do a middle ground where I believe in a public option, Medicare for all who want it. And then now he made a video where he's okay, I was just fucking wrong. We're at this point where we need single payer now. And apparently some people were even going so far as they're doing this. They're actually doing the smear campaign. Maybe this proves that he's actually a good candidate because they're smearing him. They're running to smear him because literally apparently because Tom Steyer's big thing was he was the climate change guy. He was a billionaire who was trying to spend a lot of money for climate change. And people were oh, but he's not mentioning climate change in this race. Interesting. He's shifting climate change. It's but I don't think he. I don't think he is. And also, I don't think that this race is going to be locked out for the Dems. I mean, guys, they're going to find one. When the polls start getting a bit more, like when it gets closer, they're going to make the decision. Like the same thing with like polls or like third party candidates are like, oh, third party candidates poll get 10%. It's like when the polls, when the race gets closer, people are going to chicken out. The last thing, they're going to chicken out, and it's going to be Eric. It's going to be Eric. Guys, I'm sorry, it's Eric. Eric is the one who's going to fucking be the nominee. Next is Minnesota. Tim Walz dropping out over that stupid Somali BS has made the race slightly more interesting, especially since Keith Ellison has been floated as a potential candidate in the race. But I think Keith is going to be doing something that a Muslim normally doesn't do, cook that fucking pig. So, in the horse race, it's going to be blue, and, I don't know who's going to be the nominee, but I guess we all probably figured out who it's probably going to be, but I'm just going to say, I don't know. We just have to wait for that particular person to enter. Adding this as an addendum to the Minnesota race, because I forgot to mention this earlier, but one thing that slowly trended on Twitter for a little bit was Jesse Ventura popped up after, the whole situation in Minneapolis and said, I only got one term as governor of Minnesota, so maybe I might run for governor of Minnesota. And the first thing I tweeted is, so Jesse Ventura is shilling his new book already? Because Jesse Ventura is not going to run for mayor of Minnesota. He's not running. I mean, he's not running for governor of Minnesota. He's not running. He's just shilling a fucking product. That's what he does. That's a meme. I called this out at the time. That's a meme. That's all he does. He comes in, says, I'm going to do this thing. He says, he floats himself I might run for Senate. I might run for president. I might run for governor. And then just doesn't do anything and just goes, and just shills, oh, by the way, here's my new TV show. Here's my new book. Here's my new podcast. He's a fucking piece of shit. And the fact that he's using the fucking death of a fucking woman to shill his fucking book, it disgusts me. But the next one is Pennsylvania, and this is where I'm gonna say a very hot take. And it's gonna be a hot take. I might post it, but I'm just gonna say it. I think I've said it before. I actually have said it before, I think, on Twitter at some point or whatever. But the fact of the matter is this. Kamala Harris should have picked Josh Shapiro to be her nominee, to be her VP nominee. Not because that would have helped her. No, far from it. I don't think that would have helped her. I don't know if, I mean, it could have helped her, maybe, but I don't know if any of the different VP nominees would have helped her or not. But that's not the point. This isn't about like a going backwards in time thing, this could have actually helped the race at any sort of capacity. No. The only reason why I wanted to pick Josh Shapiro now is because if that was the case, all the hate would have went to Josh Shapiro and not Tim Walz. Guys, you do know all of this scrutiny going to Minnesota is almost exclusively because he was the VP nominee for Kamala. He dared to challenge Lord Emperor Trump, and as such, he's facing the repercussions of it. They harassed his son. They did all that shit to him. All that stuff literally would have happened to Josh Shapiro had he been the nominee instead of Tim Walz. And you guys are the ones who are all saying Tim Walz is amazing. Tim Walz is great. I don't even fuck with Tim Walz like that. Tim Walz is better than Josh Shapiro. I know that for a fact. But you guys were all talking about Tim Walz is basically a communist essentially. I mean, yeah, it's all hyperbolic memes and stuff, but he was effectively the better of those two. So it's definitely would have been more interesting to seeing one fall than the other. But anyways, next race, Ohio. A race that should not be competitive at all. But then the GOP decided for some reason to anoint Vivek Ramaswamy as the nominee, and magically Ohio became purple. I wonder what happened. The fact that Ramaswamy is the fucking guy is the dumbest shit imaginable. Nobody likes Ramaswamy. I mean this in an honest sense. Nobody. Republican voters don't like him. Democrats don't like him. Nobody likes him. His whole spiel doesn't even make sense. He was trying to be the Andrew Yang of the Republican field in 2024, but also he loved Donald Trump and was trying to be he was effectively campaigning as the Trump nominee in the primaries. And that was literally anybody who supports any of the things about Donald Trump or Andrew Yang or any of the sort none of them would have liked Vivek Ramaswamy. Pro-Trumpers don't like him because he dared to run against God Emperor Trump. Like, if they liked Trump and liked his rhetoric, Vivek Ramaswamy saying it doesn't make any sense. They're like, this guy's a fucking annoying prick. When people like Andrew Yang wasn't a fucking annoying prick. He was a soft-spoken, nice guy. And if they backed Trump for certain reasons, they definitely will not like a guy named Vivek Ramaswamy. And sure enough, those are the people that are going to be his undoing, because Nick Fuentes is literally saying that he's going to do everything in his power to make sure Vivek Ramaswamy loses, even if that means backing the Democratic nominee. And again, think about it. That is what's making this race competitive. The fact that Nick Fuentes, a literal neo-Nazi, is actively campaigning against the Republican nominee. And yet, somehow, J.D. Vance is still going to pretend that, talking about Nick Fuentes is irrelevant. He's not. He's your future. Next race, New York. New York is, of course, going blue, but the one question remains, is it going to be Hochul? Because Anthony Delgado is running a pretty high-profile bid against her. And he wasn't even the only one. There were a couple of Dems who did see an opportunity to run against her. Is it leading to anything? So far, no. But I wouldn't say look away quite yet. Maine. Two of Maine's prominent political families are duking it out in the Democratic primary. And then Troy Jackson comes in to represent the political left. So far, I don't know much about this race. Troy Jackson sounds kind of cool. Probably won't win, though. But either way, it's probably going to go blue. New Hampshire. Kelly Ayoade is probably going to get it, unfortunately. She's pretty likely with some possible questions. Like, it's on paper competitive, but these kind of states go a certain way. A lot of these, like, states have this thing where it's like on the federal level, they're like, oh, he must elect a Democrat. But then on this local level, they're like, hold on, but these Republicans, because, these kinds of, like, libs in these areas definitely just have a certain je ne sais, I don't know if it's je ne sais quoi or not, but whatever. Nevada, so far it's possible for a blue flip, but seeing Lombardo has got the Trump wing in line with him, even though he's an quote-unquote alleged anti-Trumper, I don't know. He's like got the slight edge at the time being. Wisconsin, it's going to be close, but I think Mandela Barnes does have it. The advantage is on his side a slight bit, but I don't necessarily know if it's going to be that much of a big bend. Michigan, this race became a bit more competitive after former Democratic mayor of Detroit, Mike Duggan, decided to run as an independent candidate. In the most likely scenario of Jocelyn Benson, John James, and Duggan, it's pretty close, and the most recent polls have James eking out a slight win. But then again, the 2022 Ohio gubernatorial race had polls where the independent former Democrat with high numbers had a Republican winning, and then when eventually push comes to shove, people made their right choice. So again, I don't know. Next is Arizona. It's a competitive race on paper, but it seems the GOP is making their classic mistake and putting their most insane people in the most competitive seats. Like, literally, the best option for them right now is nominating a guy who voted to certify Arizona's votes in 2020, but also voted to acquit Donald Trump. Like, I mean, that's literally it. The Democratic nominee seems to be locking this race in the bag. But I actually want to talk about this race for another reason. There's another reason why I want to talk about this race. So, and it kind of relates to something that I said a little earlier. If you've been a member, if you've been on this channel and been subbed to me for a while and been paying attention to my channel for a while, you may remember my drama regarding the 2020 Green Party presidential primary process. And I really, really, really should make a fucking video all about that primary process. I have literally I want to make a video. I mean, if I want to make another fucking like long video essay documentary, I want it to be about that fucking race, because that race is insane. And now that I have the full picture of that race, it would make a more compelling video than as it was going on. I mean, while it was going on, it was pretty interesting. I should probably find like the videos and like the stuff that I've made about it thus prior and like find like make a playlist of it. But I mean, I've talked about it a little before, and I'll talk about it a lot. I'll probably talk about it a lot more. I'll probably, if someone actually comments it, I'll probably like write a full, if you guys comment that you want me to do it, I'll write like a fucking like massive document and then link, and then like not link it, but like I'll just write like a massive comment and then pin it in the comment section, because literally I remember all this shit like vividly. Okay, but just for a quick TLDR, some questions were raised by some of the Green candidates in the 2020 primary process. Some were legit, like Howie Hawkins' campaign manager asking another candidate to drop out of the race, and the Green Party co-chair going to official party events and shilling Howie Hawkins. Some were complete BS, like Howie Hawkins seeking the Socialist Party nomination, meaning that he was disqualified from running, even though other Green Party candidates have done similar things prior. They claimed that a Jewish candidate in the race was actually an Israeli dual citizen, and claiming that all the shenanigans of the Green Party primary process made it so that the process was null and void, and the only solution that made sense was for the party to just unilaterally decide to make Jesse Ventura their nominee. And the originator of many of this was a man by the name of William Pounds, who literally just kept digging a hole for himself about this race. And one of the things that he was so disgusted by this that him and his butt buddy Chad Wilson, who was allegedly running for president for the Green Party, and literal Hitler supporter Cynthia McKinney were like, we're going to form a brand new political party called the Independent Emerald Green Party. Like, he called it like 15 million different names, like the Emerald Green Party, the Independent Green Party, and like basically, I'm going to make this new party that's like going to lead like the libertarian left and the libertarian right. They're going to unite together as one against the evil socialist Green parties, because somehow they were also concluding that the Green Party was secretly being taken over by socialists, even though it was a socialist political party already. And they basically just used it to shill their own podcast and make a bunch of like clicks and views, get whatever they want out of it. And I briefly became the nemesis of Chad Wilson and fucking William Pounds for a little while, because at one point I kind of agreed with what they said, but then after a while I was like, wait, hold on, this don't make no sense. You're not making any sense. Like, for example, like it started with like, oh, Howie Hawkins was getting favoritism by the Green Party. It's like, oh, that makes sense. And then it's like, oh yeah, we should unilaterally nominate Jesse Ventura. It's like, wait, what? Where'd you get this from? What? And that's where it started. Like, literally they just kept saying, like, due to this, like, literally, it's like, it's literally like the fucking, like, underwear gnomes from fucking South Park. It's like, step 1, collect underwear. Step 2, step 3, profit. It's literally, it's like step 1, Howie Hawkins is rigging the Green Party nomination against him. Step 2, step 3, nominate Jesse Ventura. And Jesse Ventura entertained their fucking delusion, which is why I fucking hate him so much. He entertained their delusion by going on all these podcasts like, well, if they want to nominate me, I don't know. I don't want to do any of the work because I'm a lazy fucking loser. I don't know. But then, even then, they would inevitably just start turning on Jesse Ventura, because Jesse Ventura said, like, I think we should get vaccinated. And it's like, how dare you, Jesse Ventura? How dare you? And it's like, and then now he's running for the Green Party nomination for governor. And now he's like shilling like he's like a pro Jesse Ventura now. It's like, these guys don't stand for anything. This is the thing. The same thing with a lot of these other like anti like woke leftists or whatever. They just don't believe in anything. None of these guys believe in anything. But like I mentioned before, the most important one is Georgia. And things are not looking good down there. Brad Raffensperger is trying to be the governor. But poll-wise, it seems that the Trumpian candidate is winning and is likely going R. So, if we had to take a guess, 25R, 23D, 2 toss-ups that I can't really figure out. Alright, so the next group of races are, of course, the House. 435 seats are up for grabs. And these are so important that the GOP has desperately tried to rig it at the last minute, leading to that redistricting battle. And I don't know, like, I mean, there's so many things about that redistricting battle that has happened. Like, first of all, we have the Republicans redistricting many of these areas, And then we're also seeing, like, of course, Democrats are redrawing their districts to be more favorable for them. And that's leading to more Republican states being redistricted. But then we're learning that the whole thing is probably meaningless because they literally base their entire, like, electoral rigging strategy on the results of one election. And thus, literally, it's like young Latino men leaned slightly to Trump one election, and magically they're rigging it so that all these young Latino men are being drawn into all of these competitive areas. Keep in mind, this is more intentions than anything, because Trump said, like, he literally wanted to, like, redraw the districts so that there'd be 100 Republican districts. But realistically, again, like, all the Dems really need are 5 seats. It's a close race, so all they really need is 5 seats. So, like literally every single race can go the exact same except for 5 swing seats flipping, and then magically the Dems will be in charge. Is that likely? I don't know, especially considering all the redrawings and stuff. So a lot of people are like, they have to calculate and then recalculate whether these seats are viable. So what I'm doing for this one is that I'm just going to look at the 270 to win consensus data, which compiles basically all of the, like, polls and, like, pollsters and predictors, and compiles all the results together, and then kind of goes, of all these ones, all 4 of these guys say these are swing seats, so this is a swing seat. But these 4 say it's blue. These 2 say, these 2 posters say it's blue. These 2 posters say it's red, so we're gonna make it a toss-up or whatever. Or, like, 3 of these ones say it's a red, but this one says it's a toss-up, so we're just gonna give it red. I don't know how they really do that particularly, but what we're seeing is, like, swing seats. I'm just going to look at the swing seats that site says are swing seats, then look at some of the polls and predictors and make predictions based on that. If they lean one way, it's usually because they lean, if they lean one way, it's usually, like, the way that I do it is, like, I'm taking all of them into consideration. Like, for example, I'm taking all 4 of the predictor organizations and whatever polls are available. So, for example, if all 4 predictor organizations label the seat as a toss-up, but then there have been 3 polls that have been conducted that say it's blue, I'll give it to blue because I'm seeing results that say it'll go blue. But let's say all 4 predictor organizations say that it's a red, but then there's 1 poll that says it's blue. Well, there's a lot more factors that say it's red, so I'll give it to the red. But the most likely scenario is, like, we'll see, like, a mix of it where it's like, pollsters will be like, 3 toss-ups, 1 red, and then 2 polls that say blue. What happens then? I don't know. Like, I mean, you have to go district by district. If we were to go by purely vote total, then Dems are predicted to get a decent number of votes, which means that they are likely to get those 5 seats needed. So, I mean, I don't know. So here are the ones that are considered swing, and I'll put I'll put blue, red, or toss-up. Okay. Arizona 1, blue. Arizona 6, blue. California 13, blue. California 22, toss-up. California 48, blue. Colorado 8, toss-up. Iowa 1, blue. Michigan 7, blue. Michigan 10, red. New Jersey 7, red. New Mexico 2, blue. New York 4, blue. Ohio 1, blue. Pennsylvania 7, toss-up. Pennsylvania 10, blue. Texas 34, red. Virginia 2, toss-up. Washington 3, blue. Wisconsin 3, toss-up. So I'm going to say 218 blue, 212 red with 5 seats in play. But if you really have, like, gun to my head, who's it going to? I would say those remaining 5 also go blue. Again, we're all working on the assumption, no electoral rigging, no shenanigans. If we would go purely by if we just purely go by pendulum shift and just a general vibe, it's going blue. And last but certainly not least, we have the United States Senate. 35 Senate seats are up for grabs in 2026. And unfortunately for Democrats, they are currently in a situation that's just not the best. Even though they are the underdogs, they're also the ones on the defense in this election. That's not a good sign. If we are to be completely reasonable, obviously, first, we're just gonna throw 22 of those seats away. Deep blue, deep red. nothing's changing in the fucking like couple months that we have left until the elections. And I will also throw in the marginally competitive seats like Minnesota and Florida, because, again, they're really only competitive on paper, and there's not much there that I can really see swaying the races. Like, I mean, I'll just be front. I looked at Minnesota, and I looked at the Republicans in the race. Not a lot of good choices. And I looked at Florida. There is no Dem choice. There are Dems running, but there is no Dem choice. There was one. His name was Josh Wheel. Who do we got next? Fucking Alan Grayson? Like, nah, man, nah. But this analysis is also going to be interesting for a number of reasons. Okay, so one of the big things I gotta say is this. Dems, again, if Dems just look at the map truly as it is, I mean, they're not having a good time. They are not having a good time. There are not many routes for them to win if they just look at the map as is. So Dems, they gotta start looking at places that they shouldn't be looking. They gotta start looking in states that they normally wouldn't even consider, but they gotta try. I mean, I just gotta be real. Dems are at the position where they need to actually try expanding their base. Not in the ways they have in the past. Because I gotta say this. Dems, they've been trying expanding their base in Florida. Fucking give up on Florida. Truly, give up on Florida. Florida is gone. Do not spend a single cent in Florida. That's the failure that has happened multiple times. Multiple times they've tried giving money to Florida. They gave money to Val Demings while leaving Cherry Beasley and fucking Mandela Barnes out to dry. A stupid idea that literally nobody should have really seen in any sort of actual viable sense. And there are actually 6 states that they can look at to actually give them a viable chance at possibly doing better than before. Kansas, hear me out. Kansas is a pretty big Hail Mary, but again, remember, it was competitive. They had a Democratic governor, so there is competitiveness. And the only reason why people are even considering this is because a swing state Democrat, Sharice Davids, is apparently thinking about running in this race, depending on gerrymandering. Now, I would say only in that area, in that particular circumstance of Sharice Davids running, then take this race seriously. If she doesn't run, forget Kansas. Kansas, gone. Maybe if they dig up the governor and force her to run, then maybe. But otherwise, I don't think there's much ways to do it. Okay, next states that they could possibly focus a little bit on is Nebraska. Hear me out again. This one is probably the biggest Hail Mary of them all, because Dan Osborne's back, and he's beaten the Nebraska Democrats so bad into submission, they're not even going to bother to play the game of like, oh, well, we don't like you, and we're not going to endorse you, or blah, blah, blah. They're not going to play that game anymore. They're just like, yeah, we're all on the same team now. Even as Dan Osborne has made it pretty abundantly clear, he is not a Democrat. For better and for worse, he will fight for, funding money. He will fight for, giving workers a big wage. He'll fight to make sure that people have the right to repair. But he's definitely not going to fight for, helping people on the border. He's made abundantly clear that he ain't going to do that. And it's the thing I said about his race last time. The last time, his race will not help Democrats. This race is not going to help Democrats at all. Again, he's not a Democrat. He's made it abundantly clear. He's not going to caucus with the Democrats. He's not a Democrat. Fuck the Democrats. He doesn't like them. No Democrats. No Democrats here. This race exclusively hurts the Republicans because it would give them one less seat. That's all it would do. One less seat for the Republicans. And in this situation, in this time period, that's kind of what you need. You kind of need that, Dems. You need one less seat for the Republicans. It means you gotta focus. It means one less seat for Republicans. And it's not unprecedented. Osborne, due to the fact that he's not a Democrat, did overperform Kamala in 2024. So it's possible that he can repeat the magic. This race is slightly harder than the prior one, so it's slightly more complicated. But again, give Dan a shot. I mean, I'm not even like the type of that. I don't even like Dan Osborne that much. But it's like, guys, you're not in a winning situation, guys. You guys are the same ones that say like, oh well, we gotta endorse bad Dems and swing seats. This is that situation, dude. This isn't even a swing seat. You guys gotta just try. Next up is Alaska. Mary Sattler Peltola has seemingly all but confirmed that she's running for this race. Normally, we'd say DOA for a Democrat in Alaska. This ain't Mike Gravel. But thanks to ranked choice voting and the fact that all of Alaska's offices are statewide offices, she actually has a way better chance than you realize. Now, keep in mind, I was also the same guy who was actually openly stating, guys, you do know that Mary Sattler Peltola is going to lose in 2024, right? Because I actually know a lot more about Alaska politics than you think. Alaska politics is very interesting. Literally, it's Republicans have basically a supermajority overwhelmingly in the state. And the other parties are so small that they literally, for a long period of time, had to have the Democrats, Libertarians, and Independents all run in the same primary. That's why they even entertained the ranked choice voting as an idea, because we're at a situation where it's this just needs to happen. And you gotta look at this. The incumbent senator did only get 53% of the vote during his last bid. To his opponent's 41%, then that was done through the same method of the Dan Osborne method, independent running basically as the Democratic nominee. And again, possible, but there is one slight concern with this, because this is the thing you gotta understand about, let's just do a brief analysis of Mary Sattler Peltola's, political career entirely. Now, if you remember, she ran that, Don Young was, a moderate Republican who was elected and served a long period of time as Alaska's representative, even to the point of being dubbed, Alaska's third senator because of his, Alaskan, infrastructure and stuff but anyways, he died, and then special election came in to fill in, and that was the first time ranked choice voting was going to be implemented. So it was this might be interesting. So when the race ended up happening, 4 people ended up getting on the ballot: Mary Sattler Peltola, Sarah Palin, Nick Bekich, and Al Gross. 1 Democrat, 2 Republicans, 1 Independent. Now Al Gross dropped out and said hey, I think that Mary Sattler Peltola and the 5th place finisher, who's also a native indigenous member of Alaska, an indigenous Alaskan, I think either of these 2 would be a great choice for the senator for the position. But since he dropped out way too late, the race ended up being a race between Peltola, Bekich, and Palin. And Palin very desperately tried to get Bekich to drop out. Bekich said, no, I'm not going to drop out. So what ended up happening was that Peltola swallowed up all the Democratic vote, and then Palin became super prominent and got a majority of the Republican vote, and then Bekich was 3rd place. But since Bekich was from a prominent political family of both Democrats and Republicans, when Bekich dropped out and his votes were moving over to the other people, some people voted for, Palin as their second choice, because Palin is, of course, a Republican, they're Republican loyalty. But other people were more, loyal to the Bekich family name, which also, again, has Democrats in it. So they were, a bit more open and more centrist-minded to vote for Peltola. Some people have been going so far as to state that, Palin being in the race was a problem because she swallowed up so much of the Republican vote in the first round that there really wasn't much room for, a lot of changes. And people even point out, and the weird thing that people pointed out was they thought this whole thing was a fluke. And then when the next race rolled around and then things actually ran smoothly, kind of, it was 2 Republicans, 1 Democrat, and a Libertarian. And then a similar situation happened. Libertarian, kind of really small candidate, kind of slowly divided up into 3 other candidates. And then Bekich dropped, he didn't drop out, but ranked choice voting. Then same thing happened. But this time, Peltola was so prominent, and since she just got into office, they basically were let's give her a chance. So she basically just won pretty overwhelmingly. But then it wasn't until the most recent, 2024, that the election actually played out in another way. So what ended up happening is that the lieutenant governor of Alaska ran against Peltola, and Bekich ran again. And then what ended up happening is that them and another Republican got on the ballot with Peltola, but then lieutenant governor and the other Republican dropped out, leaving a small Democrat and a small third-party candidate named Jonathan Howe of a far-right paleoconservative party to be on the ballot. And, that was the thing that they needed. They needed a moderate Republican in the race to vote for Peltola in the second round. Like, with Bekic as her sole opponent, there was no reason for Bekic voters to vote for, even as Bekic voters probably did vote for Peltola as their second choice, their votes did not transfer because he was the only opponent. And that's the thing. So far, it's only the Republican incumbent and Peltola basically saying, I'm probably going to run. There's no one else running. They need a prominent, moderate Republican to run in this seat as well. And that probably won't happen because the Republican Party of Alaska has smartened up. They know how to rig the game. It's not impossible, and I don't necessarily even say that they shouldn't run Peltola anyways. Just, why not? But the point is, measure your expectations. Next race is Texas, the state that everybody's predicted for a long period of time is going to be blue at some point in the not so distant future. And some people say under these certain circumstances, this could be the year. We've been saying it for a while now, but let's just keep saying it and maybe it'll come true. The GOP is currently looking and throwing away their advantage of incumbency by picking Ken Paxton, who is apparently just not well liked. So people are saying if the right Democrat enters, this could be the chance that they've been looking for. And 2 Democrats have emerged to stand to the plate. There's a third candidate in the race, but nobody cares. The big race is between James Tallarico and Jasmine Crockett, which has led to a ton of people to say a lot about this race, making the case for and against either candidate in the race. And you all who are talking about this race, you're just getting pretty fucking heated. Me, I'm just sitting there eating my popcorn laughing because literally I made a joke earlier on during this drama where I'm like, wow, I'm so excited for the Texas Democratic primary, and I just posted a picture of Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg because it's kind of true. I'm kind of lowballing because Tallarico is slightly better than Pete Buttigieg, I guess. Like, I mean, he supports no aid to Israel, I guess. People will criticize like the fact that, you know, he's got funded by like a pro-Israel billionaire at some point. But every day during this race, he's basically said like, oh, well, I mean, well, we should not give money to Israel. I would vote to cut funding to Israel. Like, that's basically his thing. And Crockett, you know, everybody's been trying to say Crockett is the progressive in the race. And it's just like, really? Since when? Like, I mean, like, and one of the big things that happened was like, Crockett was like, people were talking about like particularly talking about Israel, specifically on the issue of Israel. But like, Crockett, what about this? It's like, she's like, look, you guys gotta look at my record. And then people are like saying, okay, I'm looking at your record, and your record is saying that you are pro-Israel. So if you're a Texan in my audience and that's your sole issue for the next election, you got your choice. Like, and I mean, one of the big things I've also seen is like, so a lot of people like saying like, oh, well, she's like the far left. People like AOC. It's like, she's not. Ro Khanna and Ayanna Pressley are the only people backing her, I think. And I mean, Ro Khanna is because, like, you know, they're their friend and ally in Congress, and also Ayanna Pressley's backing her because she's Black Senate nominee, Black woman senator. You know, they kind of, you know, the people really want more than one Black woman senator at a time. Yeah, especially because I think if she wins, that would be the third one at a time. So I was like, oh, actually, wow, that's so amazing. We've never had that before. The only thing that I've actually seen that could actually make sense purely in this, like, you know, like arguing about this race is purely on an electoral sense. That's the only way you could, literally, if you just say, like, if this is purely on an electoral sense, like, if this is like about like a morality of like, oh, which candidate is like super superior than the other, it's like, this race is basically a nothing burger. But if you're running purely on, this is just electoralism, then yeah, Tallarico is obviously better. He's polling higher than her. He's polling higher than Crockett. There are races where Crockett is, like, all the polls that have Crockett in it, Crockett's losing against all of them. All, like, losing against Cornyn, losing against Wesley Hunt, and losing against Paxton. I mean, that's the big thing. It's like losing against Paxton. Meanwhile, Tallarico, they have like races where it's like, they have polls where it's like, oh, he's beating Paxton, like basically only Paxton. So yeah, literally purely on an electoral sense, it would be best for Tallarico to win. And yeah, you could say like, oh, it could be because of racism. Yeah, that could be it. That could be literally it. Like Do you really think the people of Texas are going to vote for a black woman to be senator? I don't know. Next one is Iowa, a marginally competitive seat that has no incumbent. And this area seems to have all three major nominees kind of give off like a rural populist outsider Democrat vibe. Nathan Sage, Josh Turek, and Zach Walls. All of them are kind of doing it in like that same way. Like, you know, rural-ish, not necessarily progressive-ish, like progressive-ish, but like more in like a populist sense. You know, I mean, I would have preferred J.D. Scholten to stick around and do the race, but he dropped out. And it seems like of the three, Walls is kind of the de facto establishment choice. You know, he's being backed by like Iowa, like an Iowa Democrat, and like Howard Dean. So, you know, like, they're like progressive-ish, populist-ish, but like, you know, in one that's cozy to the Democratic establishment. Meanwhile, I guess Turek and Sage are kind of going by like the true, like, I guess, anti-establishment vibes or whatever. I mean, Turek is the one that got like the endorsement of J.D. Scholten, and Sage has just gotten no endorsements. I mean, I guess Robert Reich technically endorsed him, but, you know, I mean, again, it should have been Scholten. I wish Scholten was the one. But the last one that is probably not a one that they should be focusing on, but one that could be possible for some ideas, is Ohio. And the only reason why this is back into contention is because Sherrod Brown is running again. Like, running against the person who was just appointed to be there. So, like, I mean, there's like a weird element of like people who get appointed to seats where it's like sometimes people like, we want to give them a chance to let them govern. But then other times they're just like, if you put the right person against them, they might just go like, yeah, who cares? And yeah, that's kind of the thing. Sherrod Brown is the one guy who definitely would be that. That, combined with the fact that Vivek is killing the Ohio GOP's chance at the governor's mansion, makes it more probable than prior, which would be funny because Ohio Republicans literally just did a lot of heavy lifting to get rid of Sherrod Brown, and it's very possible that he's just going to come right back and be like, hey guys, did you miss me? But yeah, those ones are more of like the Hail Mary possibles, like not probables, but possibles. But these races are the ones that are dubbed the official competitive seats. These 5. First, we have New Hampshire. It's marginal, but not improbable that it could flip, especially considering 2 former Republican senators are showing up just to take the race for themselves. But looking poll-wise, the token gay candidate is walking away with his race. And next one, the one that's supposed to be the most important seat, Georgia. I mean, like I said, we've talked over like the previous segments where Georgia was like a big one. They were so desperate to make this race competitive that they literally chased Marjorie Taylor Greene out of the party and tried to nominate an anti-Trump governor if it meant they had the slightest chance to win. And yet he said no. So their best bet is a guy who is doing a Trump cosplay currently under investigation by the House Ethics Committee. Is Ossoff actually going to walk away with this? I don't know, I guess he is. Next up is Michigan. My boy Abdul El-Sayed is here, and I think he's got a pretty good shot at the nomination. And despite what polls say, I don't think there's really any particular reason why he'd lose. I mean, yeah, again, polls say he's the worst choice in the race, but I argue he's the best choice. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying, like, either of the 2 candidates that are opposing are particularly bad. I mean, they're bad ideologically, but in an electoral sense, I guess I can't really, argue with the polls, even though I'm arguing against Abdul's polls. But there's a reason why I'm arguing Abdul's polls rather than arguing the other 2's. Those 2's make sense because, Dem, Lib, whatever, happy, blah, 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 blah. But Abdul has something that they don't. Unlike the other 2, Abdul El-Sayed can tap in to the uncommitted movement. The ones that everybody keeps blaming for the loss in 2024. I'm just saying, if you think that's the reason why you lost 2024, would your first and second and third steps be something along the lines of trying to bring those guys back into the fold? Now, granted, I don't know how many people of the uncommitted movement did not end up folding back into the Democratic Party by the end of the race. Because a lot of people like to pretend that it was like this massive movement that, like, even at the end of the day, they wouldn't back the Democrats. I don't know how true that is. Because the uncommitted movement literally explicitly said Kamala Harris is a better choice than Trump. And they did end up voting for Elisa Slotkin as the senator in that race, as opposed to letting her lose. Like, again, I'm not sure how many of them are not in the fold, but I'm going to take a wild guess and say that anybody who isn't back in the fold quite yet might be more inclined to go back in the fold if the guy who is buddy-buddy with Zohran Mamdani and Hassan Piker gets nominated. And that race, that previous 2024 race, does also have some indications. Like, if the uncommitted movement was like so big and so drastic that it led to Kamala Harris's loss in the state, then how come it didn't also lead to Mike Rogers winning that state as well? If he's that bad that he lost in a setting that apparently was so bad for Kamala and the Democrats, then really, does he have a chance when that movement is kind of finished? Next race, Maine. My boy Graham Plattner probably has this in the bag. Quite literally, he's the only one who is consistently beating Suzanne Collins. And this comes after the massive failure that was the 2020 primary of Suzanne Collins, where libs all across the nation raised a pretty sum of money independent from the Democratic Party to beat Suzanne Collins. And literally, it was like, I don't remember the exact number, but it was like a movement literally said, like, after like a Donald Trump thing about Suzanne Collins, it literally like raised a shit ton of money and said, we'll give this to whoever the Democratic nominee is if they, like, just purely to beat Suzanne Collins. And then add that to the massive amounts that the DSCC spent to beat her. And it was all wasted on a nobody centrist that couldn't excite people to vote for her, even under Maine's ranked choice voting system. And despite that, Dems are desperately trying not to learn their lesson here and rig it for Janet Mills, dusting out every single dirty trick in the book to end Plattner's bid. But this is a different time. People are done. They don't care anymore. He's still in, and he's here to win. This is the one race that I actually do kind of think is kind of like, I gotta be real. I don't know how many times, I don't necessarily know how many of these swing seats the nominee would change the results. I mean, I guess it would change the results in fucking Georgia, because that would mean you're losing your advantage of incumbency. But I mean, literally in Maine, like, I mean, in Michigan, in Michigan, I think Abdullah Saeed is the best choice for the nomination, obviously. But I do think that Stevens and McMorrow could win. I mean, Stevens probably has the least likelihood of winning. But then again, I thought Elisa Slotkin was a terrible choice, and she ended up winning. But Maine, I really do think is kind of indicative. If Graham Plattner doesn't win, then I don't think they're gonna win. Graham Plattner has to win in Maine. If he doesn't, I think they're gonna lose. If I remember correctly, Mills barely won her 2 gubernatorial bids. I mean, she might have like did a slight bit. Like, I mean, it was like, I think it was like 54 or something. But like, again, like, that's not a good indicative. That's not a good indication of the race. Graham Plattner can bring a lot of people in the fold, much like Abdullah Saeed. He can bring people in the fold that aren't necessarily Dems, but that's also the big concern. Like I said this, I think I said this before. I probably said this like privately or not. I don't know if I said it publicly. Like, the same reasons why people like Bernie Sanders would win the general election are the exact reasons why they can't win a Democratic primary. And I don't know if that's going to be the case for Graham Plattner. Hopefully Graham Plattner pulls through, because we're in a vastly different era, but I don't know. I mean, I hope so. And last but certainly not least, North Carolina. The race with my boy, Justin Dews. That's right, Justin Dews. What, you thought I was going to say something else? You thought I was going to say a different person? Nah, my boy's Justin Dews. My boy, Justin Dews, is 100% going to lose to Roy Cooper. Like, bro, I'm sorry. I gotta be real. Like, I mean, I'm only backing Justin Dews because he's a better candidate than Roy Cooper, and I actually can vote. I have, we have a primary. I mean, we have a primary, quote unquote, but Roy Cooper's gonna win the primary. We all know that. Now, you know me, and let's just use this time a little bit to give a little pretext. You know me. I hate that despite the fact that North Carolina's Senate races are seemingly the most important Senate races for winning the Senate for Democrats, we are somehow treated like an afterthought. Dems rigged the primary for Cal Cunningham and pushed Jeff Jackson out of the race. Turned out great, guys. They rigged it for Cherry Beasley and then pushed Jeff Jackson out of the race again, and then also left Cherry Beasley at the dry for no reason. Turned out great. You rigged the primary and then stop paying attention to it. Why even bother rig it if you're not going to put your money in the race? And both of the riggings were kind of done a little differently. One was done by the nationwide party, one was done more by the state party. And I kind of just don't like either the state party, the National Democratic Party's strategy in North Carolina, or the state Democratic Party's strategy in North Carolina, because their strategy seems to be fucking terrible. Then Anderson Clayton became the North Carolina Democratic Party chair, and things started changing for the Democratic Party strategy. They started putting a lot of effort into North Carolina for the 2024 elections. They literally, one of the strategies that was very important was the thing that, turned down a lot of vote was literally they, even went so far as to, campaign in places that they can never win. I remember that strategy where it was one candidate literally ran a website that literally said, "Hi, I am this candidate. I literally cannot win because the North Carolina Republican Party has rigged the race so massively that I literally have no chance of winning. Despite that, I believe you guys deserve an option in this race." And I was very hopeful that actually meant that there were some changes for the North Carolina Democratic Party, the North Carolina Democratic Party. There are some changes. I think there was a ceasefire resolution that they passed and other kind of stuff like that. But one of the strategies that I was very desperate for was that I was hoping that this race could finally be the time where we have a Democratic primary in North Carolina, an actual, literal, competitive Democratic primary. Because again, we weren't given those options in the previous races. In 2020, Cal Cunningham has basically got rigged. Then Erica Smith was his primary opponent, and Trevor Fuller was his other opponent, and they basically had no chance. In 2022, there was going to be a competitive primary with Jeff Jackson, Erica Smith, and Richard Watkins and a bunch of other people. And then they said, "Oh, we're going to rig it for Cherry Beasley, and literally we're going to force you all out of the race." To the point where I literally just picked a random guy on the ballot and was just yeah, I'll just vote for you. I guess I did do research into him. His website said he was pro-Medicare for all, so it's whatever. And it was there was going to be, Wiley Nichols said that he was going to run this race for some reason. I'm oh boy, yes, I want to vote. I want to make sure Wiley Nichols loses. But then he dropped out like a pussy. And yeah, there's not going to be a competitive primary. Yeah. Maybe one day, but not today. Now, I don't think this was for any particular reason. I think this one really was just kind of happenstance. Roy Cooper, the former popular Democratic governor who has won literally every single competitive race, every single competitive statewide race for 24 years, he was going to run. Who was going to run against him? Wiley Nichols jumped in at the first second that he could. It was to be "Oh, Roy, will you not run?" He's "No, what? Of course I'm going to run. Of course they want me to run. I'm the one guy who would be able to win this fucking seat." Come on. There's basically no competition here. Then also another thing that makes this race very interesting is the fact that for some reason the North Carolina Republican Party gave up. This is weird. It's weird. This is an important, very vital seat that the Republicans have been desperately trying to say that they have some sort of moral superiority on with the Hurricane Helene crap. And they're literally picking the weirdest guy to run. They're picking the North Carolina Republican Party. They also rigged their primaries too. Most notably in 2022, Trump openly offered one of the candidates his endorsement, Mark Walker. He's "I'll endorse your bid if you drop out of this race to run for Congress because I'm backing Ted Budd." And then he said, "No, I'm not going to do that." And no, that ended up happening. But again, but for some reason, in this race, they've decided to anoint former Republican Party bigwig Michael Whatley as the nominee. Like, literally, he was the North Carolina Republican Party chair, and then he was the National Republican Party chair. And one weird thing that's very weird about him is that he's apparently the guy who was in charge of Hurricane Helene funding. Apparently, like, I mean, for some reason, he was somehow involved with that, and he's the reason why the Hurricane Helene funding was so fucking terrible. And it's like, yeah, sure. Anoint this guy to be your nominee. Why not? That's the smartest thing I've ever heard you say. There are opponents to him in this race, but apparently the only real opponent in this race for him is, I'm not even kidding, Michelle Morrow, the North Carolina Republican who decided for some reason to have a campaign promise to put cameras in children's bathrooms. Bro, Radical Roy is running away with this race. If Dems somehow fuck this race up, then the North Carolina Democratic Party just needs to be abolished immediately, because this is like the easiest race ever. I can't believe how fucking weird it is in North Carolina, assuming again, no shenanigans, that this is going to happen. That's so weird. Now, prediction-wise, the most realistic prediction in the race, like if we're going to be completely realistic, most realistic prediction is 51-49 with Maine and North Carolina flipping. Honestly, I think that's kind of the prediction. That's kind of like the mainstream prediction, which is again why Dems need a Hail Mary fast. They need a Hail Mary, and they need it fast. If they don't have a Hail Mary, then they're kind of like not really gonna have a good time in the Senate. The most likely Hail Marys to me are Ohio and Texas. Those are the ones that are the most like big Hail Marys. Of course, with Sherrod Brown and James Tallarico. And maybe I'd give some extra funding to Alaska and Nebraska. Basically, in my mind, of course, I think you can't really, not spend money on the swing states, obviously. You can't spend any money on, you have to spend money on the swing states, obviously. But if I were to take a look at all of those races, the ones that are, the obvious, I don't know, of course, Ohio and Texas are probably the ones I'd probably spend the most money on, just based on nothing. And then I would also say Alaska and Nebraska are ones I could probably spare a little bit of money and, spend a little bit of money. I think you should spend money in every single Senate race. But of course, the National Democratic Party is not going to spend as much money in the Wyoming race as, say, the North Carolina race. As I said a million times before, for a lot of things, don't get complacent. Even as I was basically going, oh man, it feels so cool that North Carolina might go blue. It's yeah, it still might go blue. It might go blue. Don't assume that it will go blue. Don't assume that. It could go blue. Maybe it won't go blue. I don't know. And there's so many other things that gotta happen in order for things to go even better. Even as if Dems win, there's a lot more they gotta do. They gotta oust Chuck Schumer as leader. They gotta actually fight. And that's why I'm also advocating for a lot of these other progressive candidates, like Abdullah Saeed, Graham Plattner, and even technically Justin Dews. We should probably make sure that the Dem party that gets elected is a fighting bloc, an actual competitive opposition party. But also, as I mentioned before, we gotta also take into consideration, electoral politics is nice, but we just gotta make sure there are other factors, protests, that kind of stuff, direct action, that kind of stuff. Make sure that those areas are also places that you focus your energy on. And we gotta make sure that these elections happen fair and balanced. Always be vigilant, my friends. There's a long road ahead, my friends. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the bell to find out future video mine comes out. And if you need more content from me, consider supporting me on Patreon.